Hello everyone! If you're currently preparing for the TOEFL and have no idea what to expect on test day, please continue watching this video. We'll cover the structure of the test and delve into high-scoring tips and tricks for each section. If you need someone to evaluate your speaking and writing, sign up for a TOEFL course and schedule a consultation with me. I'll tell you how you'll score in writing and speaking if you take the test tomorrow, and what you should do differently to get a better score. Let's get started. First thing to do with any language test is to understand its format. The TOEFL consists of 4 sections: reading, listening, speaking, and writing. In fact, you're lucky to be taking the test now because in July 2023, the TOEFL was significantly shortened to make it easier to take and will now take less than 2 hours to complete. The reading section consists of 2 passages, and you will have 10 questions after each passage. In the listening section, you'll hear 3 lectures and 2 conversations. The lectures are usually a little longer, about 3 to 5 minutes, while the conversations are usually about 3 minutes. You will be given 6 questions after each lecture and 5 questions after each conversation. There are only 4 questions in the speaking section. However, this section is usually the most difficult for students. You will be given 15 to 30 seconds to prepare before each answer, and your answer will be 45 to 60 seconds long. Finally, the writing section consists of 2 tasks. One is an integrated writing task, where you will read a passage and listen to a lecture, and then you'll have 20 minutes to write a summary of what you read and heard. The second task is the writing for an academic discussion. This assignment requires you to answer a question in an online classroom discussion. You will only have 10 minutes to do this. Now that you know how the test works, let's review how it's scored and how long each section takes. The TOEFL is scored on a scale of 0 to 120 points. Each of the 4 sections receives a scale score from 0 to 30. And these scores are then added together to determine the total score. In terms of time, the reading section is approximately 35 minutes long. The listening section is approximately 36 minutes long. The speaking section is 16 minutes long, and the writing section is 30 minutes long. Your second step is to take a diagnostic TOEFL test to identify your strengths and weaknesses. You can take the free TOEFL practice test available on the ETS website. After taking the test, you'll know what your current level is and which areas need improvement. You can record your results in a spreadsheet and add new scores as you practice, so you can track your progress. The third step is to create a study plan. You should develop your daily study plan based on your weakest sections. But let me give you an example of how your preparation could be organized. Dedicate the first 2 days to working on the reading section. During this time, study the question types, complete at least 6 reading sections, analyze your mistakes, and get used to the pace of the exam. On the 3rd day, switch your focus to listening. Again, do about 5 to 6 listening sections. Get used to taking notes on a whiteboard if you are taking the test at home, or on a piece of paper if you decide to take the TOEFL at a test center. And always analyze your mistakes. Many students forget to do this, but it's a very effective way to improve your score. Another effective exercise is to listen to each recording a few times after you have completed the task, and look at the transcript at the same time. Analyze what information was necessary to answer the questions and what was added just to confuse you. Days 4 and 5 are for your writing practice. Spend 1 day on the integrated essay practice, and the 2nd day on the writing for an academic discussion assignment. For the last 2 days, focus solely on the speaking section. You can find many complete TOEFL speaking sections on YouTube. It's very convenient because you can go back and watch or reread the parts you missed. Some speaking sections even come with sample answers, but not all of them are of very good quality. So I wouldn't recommend relying on them too much. This brings us to another thing: finding preparation materials and resources. After you complete the free practice test on the ETS website, you will need to find resources with many full-length tests. There are several resources you can use. Number 1, official TOEFL materials. There are many practice tests on the ETS website that you can do for accurate preparation. Number 2 is free prep platforms. My favorite free platforms right now are these two. Because they're free, the first page is in Chinese, but once you select the test, you will be redirected to a page in English. Number 3, vocabulary books. There are many vocabulary books out there, but my top picks are Barron's Essential Words for the TOEFL and 400 Must-Have Words for the TOEFL. Our TOEFL course will provide you with all the information you need to achieve a high TOEFL score. We will provide you with the templates for high-scoring answers, explain the strategies for all the reading and listening sections, practice taking tests together, and teach you how to deal with the new writing for an academic discussion task. The promo code link is below. If you want to get an evaluation of your speaking and writing, select the Guru package and schedule a consultation with me. Now, I'll give you some tips for each section that will help you perform better on the day of the test. Top 10 tips for acing the TOEFL reading section. Let's get started. First, let's look at the structure of the TOEFL reading section. It consists of only 2 passages, each about 700 words long, and you have 10 questions after each passage. You'll have about 35 minutes to complete this section, which means you'll have about 17 minutes for each passage. This brings us to the first tip. Don't read the entire passage. Just dive right into the questions. I know this may seem like an obvious tip, but I often see videos and articles that tell you to read the passage first. There is nothing wrong with that, but you have to be a very fast reader. Otherwise, you will lose time that could have been spent answering the questions. So, start by reading the title of the passage to get the main idea, and then move on to the first question. Look at the example. You have a passage about ancient coastlines. The first question is a vocabulary question. You need to find a synonym for the word crucial. The correct answer is important. As you can see, if you know the word crucial, you will answer this question in a few seconds and move on to question 2. You don't need to read the whole paragraph to find the correct answer. Tip number 2, improve your vocabulary. As you saw in the previous example, knowing the meaning of the word makes things a lot easier. The TOEFL reading section is not only a reading test, it's also a vocabulary test. So, to improve your reading score, you should work on expanding your vocabulary. Not only will this help you answer vocabulary-based questions more effectively, but it will also help you understand passages better. Many students claim to have problems with their reading skills, but after they do a few practice tests, it turns out that their vocabulary is limited. This prevents them from scoring well in the section. For example, if you don't know the word resurgence, you might have a hard time finding the right answer because it's not so easy to guess from the context. However, if you know that resurgence means something begins to grow, develop, or become successful again, and you know synonyms for it, such as renewal, revival, and comeback, you will find answer B in no time. This brings me to tip number 3. Practice active reading. One of the most effective ways to expand your vocabulary, especially when it comes to academic vocabulary, is to read actively. There are 2 types of reading you can do. Passive reading is when you just read something for pleasure. This is usually what we recommend for elementary language learners because they need to learn to understand the main idea of the text. However, at the advanced level, active reading becomes crucial. You need to underline words you don't know, look up their definitions, write down lists of synonyms, and think of sample sentences with these words to help you remember them. Remember that TOEFL is an academic test, so it's common to receive texts on physics, astronomy, marketing, sociology, music, art, or geology. So the sooner you start doing active reading on these topics, the better. Tip number 4, master skimming. scanning and close reading, while one part of your success on the TOEFL reading section is a large vocabulary. The second part involves these 3 reading skills. Skimming means moving quickly through a paragraph or a passage without reading every word to get the main idea or structure of the text. This is something we would do when reading news online. Scanning means looking for the right part of the text to read. For example, you have a question about seagrasses. This means that you need to find this word in the paragraph. So, scanning would involve looking for that word, identify the right sentence, and then reading carefully to find the answer. You will need this technique for many types of questions, such as factual information and negative factual information questions. However, the most important reading skill is what we call close reading. Many students forget this and only skim and scan, which often results in low scores. For example, take a look at this type of question. It's called a sentence simplification question. To answer this question, you have to read the given sentence carefully, break it down into several main ideas, understand its meaning, and then find a sentence that has essentially the same meaning. You will never be able to answer it correctly if you just look for the keywords. Tip number 5, focus on keywords and synonyms. It's important to pay close attention to keywords because many question types in the TOEFL reading section require you to identify them. In order to find the correct answers quickly, you need to look for keywords in the questions themselves, in the answer choices, and in the passage. This will also help you save time and get through the questions more quickly. You should also be aware of the importance of synonyms and paraphrases in the TOEFL reading section. Some names, such as seagrass, are unlikely to change, while if your keywords are words like impact, decline, or importance, you should expect their synonyms or paraphrases. Tip number 6, time management. You have a limited amount of time to complete the entire section, so use your time wisely. Don't spend too much time on any one question. If you're not sure, mark it and come back to it later. Unlike the listening section, you can navigate freely between questions in this section. So if you skip a question or two, you can always come back to it later. As you practice, time yourself and see how much time you spend on each question. Tip number 7, guess the meaning of words from context. No matter how good a reader you are or how many words you know, you will always encounter some words that are new to you, and that's okay. The reading section tests your understanding of academic texts and articles, so it's natural that even native speakers won't know all of these words. When you read a text about astrophysics in your native language, you will also see some words you don't know, and that's okay. So don't panic if you don't know some words, or even many of them. Instead, focus on the words you do know and try to guess the meaning of other words from context. Tip number 8, familiarize yourself with the question types. Becoming familiar with the different types of questions will save you time and will also help you approach each question strategically. You will not need to read the instructions for each question, and you can spend this time on finding the right answer. So, after taking a few full-length reading practice tests, go through all the question types and learn the strategies for each one. This is what we teach you in our TOEFL course. We go through the question types, discuss the strategies, and then analyze a complete reading section together so you learn how to apply these strategies on the real TOEFL test. This will help you feel confident on the day of the test. You will also learn the templates for high-scoring answers on the speaking and writing sections, important vocabulary for the listening section, and tips and tricks to improve your timing during the test. The link to the course is below. If you need help with your TOEFL preparation, click and join our TOEFL community. Tip number 9, practice with a variety of tests. It is obvious that the best practice tests are the official ones you will find on the ETS website. They are created by professionals and are the closest you can get to the real TOEFL test. However, if you have done them all and still need practice tests, You should choose a few different platforms to use in your preparation. Taking tests on only one platform may either make the preparation too easy for you or make the TOEFL test seem too challenging. So be sure to combine different resources to best prepare for the test. Finally, tip number 10. Review and learn from your mistakes. After each practice test, analyze your answers. Understand why you got certain questions wrong and learn from your mistakes. This self-reflection is the key to continuous improvement. If you only take tests, you can take hundreds of them and still make the same mistakes over and over again. Top 10 tips for conquering the TOEFL listening section. Tip number 1 is to determine your listening level, as this is a crucial step in creating your TOEFL listening study plan. To do this, take 2 or 3 listening practice tests from the ETS website and calculate your average score. According to the ETS website, if your score is between 22 and 30, your listening level is advanced. If it's between 17 and 21, your level is like high intermediate. If your score is between 9 and 16, you're at a low intermediate level. And if your average score is between 0 and 8, your listening level is below low intermediate. For those of you whose listening level is advanced, include 2 things in your listening study plan. First, review the different types of questions. Second, practice the TOEFL test regularly to familiarize yourself with their structure and to hone your listening skills. If your listening level is high intermediate, low intermediate, or below, I recommend that you work on improving your listening skills with dictation before attempting to work with different types of questions. We'll talk about how to do that later in this video. Keep in mind that this distinction is based on the idea that your desired TOEFL score is 100 or higher. If your university only requires 80, a high intermediate score may be enough to start practicing with actual TOEFL tests and skip the dictation. Now, tip number 2. Improve your listening skills by practicing dictation. Dictation practice involves listening to spoken sentences or passages and writing down what you hear. This practice improves listening accuracy, concentration, and understanding of sentence structure and grammar. A great resource for dictation practice is the Daily Dictation website. They offer dictation exercises on a variety of topics and levels, including TOEFL listening. For those who have a high intermediate level, I suggest practicing with the TOEFL listening dictation exercises. For those who have a low intermediate level or below, start with short stories, daily conversations, or TOEIC listening, and gradually build up your listening skills before moving on to TOEFL listening. Tip number 3 is to improve your understanding of academic topics and college subjects. The listening section of the TOEFL covers a wide variety of subjects, including science, art, history, social sciences, and education. Unless you attended a high school or college where all classes were taught in English, you may find most of these subjects quite challenging, especially biology or geography lectures. Identify your problem areas and watch videos on YouTube specifically for these subjects. I especially recommend the Crash Course YouTube channel, as they have playlists with multiple videos dedicated to the most common school topics. Watch subtitle videos first to get used to hearing difficult words. A nice bonus: watching subtitle videos will also improve your speed reading skills, which is crucial for the reading section. Write down key vocabulary related to the topic. Later, watch the same videos without subtitles. Another good idea is to watch movies or TV shows that are set in school or college. This will help you pick up a lot of college-related vocabulary, which is also essential for the listening section. Tip number 4. Practice the art of note-taking. Do you know why college admission require foreign students to have a certain level of TOEFL scores? It is to ensure that they will be able to participate in college life. One of their goals is to test a student's ability to take notes during a lecture. As a result, most recordings contain a lot of information that you won't be able to remember in the end. This makes taking notes quickly and efficiently one of the key skills for passing the listening section. Use the following abbreviations and symbols to help you take notes more quickly, or come up with your own alternatives. For those of you taking the test at home, practice taking notes specifically on a whiteboard with a marker. This is crucial for the listening section, and I cannot stress enough how important it is. Tip number 5, track your progress. Make sure you write down all your test scores to see if you're improving or not. Not only will this motivate you to try harder, but it will also help you to calculate your average score right before you take the test. Also, write down new vocabulary and keep it in one place. This can be a real notebook or notes on your phone. Seeing how many new words you have already learned is extremely rewarding, and keeping them in one place makes reviewing them much more convenient. Tip number 6, learn to identify different question types. As I've mentioned before, there are 8 of them. Gist content, gist purpose, detail, function, attitude, organization, connecting content, inference. It is important to recognize them because the more you understand each type of question and how to approach it, the more likely you are to answer correctly in the listening section. Tip number 7, learn to manage your time. The TOEFL listening section consists of multiple choice questions, which often cause students to hesitate before choosing the right option. However, time is limited. According to the EDS website, the entire TOEFL listening test takes 36 minutes to complete and consists of 2 conversations and 3 lectures, with a total of 28 questions. Each conversation lasts 3 minutes, while each lecture lasts 3 to 5 minutes. Let's do the math. Your total listening time will be between 15 and 21 minutes, depending on the length of the lectures. This means that you'll have between 15 and 21 minutes to answer the questions. With a total of 28 questions, you'll have approximately 54 to 75 seconds per question. During this time, you should read the question and answer choices. Check your notes if necessary, eliminate 2 incorrect answer choices, and select the correct answer. As you practice, I recommend that you try to spend about 50 seconds on each question to learn to skim questions and their answer options. If you can't find the correct answer in that time, randomly choose the correct answer from the remaining 2 options and move on to the next question. Tip number 8, don't take your eyes off the screen or off your notes. In fact, it is so easy to get distracted while listening, especially when it comes to lectures. To stay focused, don't take your eyes off the screen or off your notes. This sounds simple, but it's actually quite difficult to do, especially when you are stressed. Another way to stay focused is to take notes and listen for transitions and signal words, as they often tell you what is coming next. Tip number 9, analyze listening transcripts. To take notes effectively, you need to understand the structure of conversations and lectures. Take the time to analyze the transcripts of every practice test you take. This is especially true for lectures, which are usually more difficult to follow. Pay attention to how the ideas in the lecture are connected. Think of yourself as a professor giving the lecture. How would you organize it? What would come first? What would come second? How would you explain a difficult concept to someone who does not understand it? Look for cause and effect and compare and contrast relationships in the transcripts. Pay special attention to transitional and signal words by analyzing their function in the text. And finally, tip number 10, get professional help. You can undoubtedly do a lot of work on your own and get good results. However, if you need to get a high score or are pressed for time, consider our course, Get 100 or above on TOEFL to get the results you want faster and in a less stressful way. Some game-changing TOEFL speaking tips that will have you speaking with confidence and scoring high. Tip number 1, study the speaking scoring rubrics. To get a high score, you need to know what the evaluators are looking for. So the best way to succeed in this section is to know exactly what to say and what not to say. For example, some test takers only think about their grammar and vocabulary and completely ignore what they're saying. Others, on the other hand, do their best to give 2 reasons in type 1 question and start stuttering or making mistakes in order to finish on time. There are also those who think that they should give a broad summary of the reading in questions type 2 and 3, or those who think they should not summarize the reading at all. In any case, all these people will never score higher than 23. Even if their speaking skills are very good. There are 3 main criteria you need to be aware of: delivery, language use, and topic development. You need to pass all 3, not just one. This is why I spent a lot of time both in the TOEFL prep course I created and in one-on-one sessions breaking down the speaking rubrics, so that my students have a checklist of things they absolutely need to get a high score. This brings us to tip number 2. Learn time management. The TOEFL speaking section is time sensitive, with only 4 questions to answer in 16 minutes. You have only 15 seconds to prepare for question 1 and 45 seconds to speak. And in those 45 seconds, you have to develop your opinion on a personal question and give reasons and examples for it. For example, you will be asked, do you agree or disagree with the statement that female and male university students should have separate residence halls? Now pause the video, give yourself 15 seconds to think about what to say, and try to give a detailed answer in 45 seconds, giving reasons and personal stories that would support your opinion. Not so easy, is it? So you need to practice managing your time effectively during your answers. Set a mental timer for each part of your answer so you don't get caught off guard. For example, your introductory sentence in question type 1 should be no longer than 5 seconds. Otherwise, you won't have time to go into detail. In type 2 and 3 questions, you have to read the text, then listen to a conversation and a lecture, and then summarize what you learned in 60 seconds. Again, you need to know that you should spend no more than 15 seconds summarizing the reading, and at least 40 seconds giving details from the listening. You cannot effectively stay within the time limit if you don't use templates. Small structures for all 4 of your responses will help you score well and organize your ideas clearly. So tip number 3, start the same way for each question type. Simplify your approach by using the same introductory phrase for each question type. This will reduce the stress of getting started and help you start with confidence. This is why we need effective templates. For example, let's say your question type 1 looks like this. Your degree requires that you should choose a history course. Which of the following courses would you prefer? Art history, 20th century world history, science history. You only have 15 seconds to think about what you're gonna say, so in order to start confidently, you need to have an idea of what you might say. Of course, you can try to improvise, or you can use a set phrase. I can say, if I had to choose, I would definitely opt for an art history course. This would show the examiner that I can use conditionals. If I had to choose, I would. That I know idiomatic vocabulary, opt for, and that I can successfully paraphrase the task instead of just reading it. Also, I won't freak out about what to say, because whenever I see a question like this, I already know what my introduction will be. It will also allow me to spend more time on my reasons and develop them better. Another example. In question type 2, you will usually read a campus announcement and then listen to a conversation between 2 students discussing the announcement. You have 30 seconds to prepare, which is not a lot. So, if there is a change being discussed, you can always start your answer by saying, the reading passage announces a change on campus. And then go on to summarize the reading. Imagine, you're stressed about what to say next, but you can confidently start with a memorized sentence. This will help you sound confident in what you say, which is important on test day, and give you motivation to continue with the rest of your answer. As you can see, templates are critical. Does that mean you cannot score high without a template? No, you absolutely can. But templates make your life a lot easier, increase your score, and help you prepare for the exam faster. Tip number 4, pick the right time and place to study. Avoid studying when you're too tired, especially at night. You'll only waste time and not improve. Instead, find a time in the morning or afternoon when you can concentrate better. 10 minutes of focused practice is much more beneficial than an hour of idling around the questions. For example, what I usually do with my students during our consultations is take a list of type 1 questions and then practice them for about 10 minutes. At first, I ask them to come up with opening sentences for 15 to 20 questions in a row until the skill becomes automatic and they no longer think about it. You should also practice answering questions in a noisy environment, since this is what you might experience on test day. Of course, you can practice in a quiet room first, but then play some music in the background or turn on a podcast to distract yourself. On test day, you may hear other students talking, so it's better to be prepared for a noisy environment ahead of time. Tip number 5, use a timer. Practice under time pressure to get used to the test conditions. It may sound obvious, and it probably does, but you should embrace the timer as your ally. There are students who are afraid of time, so when they see the minutes ticking away, they panic and cannot say a word. You can try speaking without the timer first, and then slowly incorporate it into your practice routine. Look at the clock at least twice during your answer to stay on track. For example, in questions 2 and 3, if you see that you have 40 seconds left, you should move on to the listening summary. Tip number 6, expand your vocabulary. Don't stick to the same set of words. Include a variety of vocabulary to showcase your language skills. A diverse vocabulary not only impresses graders, but also adds depth and richness to your responses. This doesn't mean that you need to stuff your answers with low-frequency academic words that no one uses except in academic articles. Use thematic and idiomatic vocabulary. In our TOEFL course, we have compiled a list of such words on various topics, so you don't have to find them on your own. If you choose to prepare on your own, research topics such as science, study, work, entertainment, environment, and come up with 10 to 15 word lists for each topic. Tip number 7, practice, practice, practice. You know what they say, practice makes perfect. Record yourself responding to various TOEFL prompts. Play them back, identify areas for improvement, and fine-tune your responses. The more you practice, the more comfortable and fluent you'll become. The speaking section is undoubtedly one of the most challenging sections of the TOEFL test. As a TOEFL teacher with over 10 years of experience, I've never seen a student who wasn't intimidated by this section, regardless of their level. And question 1 of the speaking section is the most intimidating. Imagine you have this prompt in front of you and only 15 seconds to prepare. Then you have 45 seconds to answer the question and provide details and examples to support your opinion. So, if you want to know how to tackle the first question of the TOEFL speaking section and learn strategies to get a high score without stressing out, you've come to the right place. So, let's dive into the first question of the TOEFL speaking section and try to answer it. Do you agree or disagree that it's important for young people to learn some domestic skills, like cooking, sewing, and taking care of children? 15 seconds to prepare. I agree that learning to do chores is key for young adults. First, it'll help you avoid lots of struggles in your adult life. I have many friends who started living on their own and had no idea how to cook. And they ended up eating out all the time, which wasn't healthy or cost-effective. Some of them would live mostly on fast food, while others chose cafes and restaurants. So either their health or their budget suffered. Besides, as an adult, you have so much more to think about rather than how to load the dishwasher or what detergent to use for your laundry. So, if you master all these skills while you're still relatively free of adult responsibilities, you'll thank yourself later. All right, we've answered the question. Now it's time for step 2. Let's quickly discuss the question itself. TOEFL speaking question 1 is often called the independent TOEFL speaking question, or the personal choice question. As you just saw, this question asks you to give your opinion on a given topic. There are 3 main types of independent speaking question. Most often, it asks you to agree or disagree with a given statement, like the question we just did. You can also see questions like this. Which one do you prefer? To buy the newly released e-product as soon as possible, or to wait for a while and then decide whether you want to buy it or not? Here they ask you to pick between 2 options. Or like this. Do you think it's important for parents to teach their kids to learn how to manage money? Use reasons and specific examples to support your opinion. Here, you need to talk about a hypothetical situation. In any case, your answer will be pretty much the same. You don't need to change the structure. Time for step 3, how your response is scored. You get a raw score for each question of the TOEFL speaking section, on a scale from 0 to 4, with 4 being the highest score. The speaking rubrics involve 3 parts: delivery, language use, and topic development, according to the EDS. To get a high score for delivery, 1, you should speak at a natural pace. 2, your speech should be clear. 3, your pronunciation and intonation should be easily understood. For language use, you should 1, use grammar and vocabulary automatically and effectively. 2, avoid too many mistakes that make your speech difficult to understand. Finally, topic development is all about 1, giving a relevant response to the topic. 2, providing enough details. 3, connecting your ideas well. Now, let's move on to step 4, useful tips. Number 1, use templates. Since your response time is limited, it is very helpful to have a small structure to guide you through your answer. You can use the templates you find online, or take our TOEFL prep course and use the templates we provide. You can find the link to it down below. 2, practice making an opening statement quickly. It's hard to believe, but many students struggle because they can't get their opening statement out in the first 5 seconds, wasting time they could have spent providing details. To practice, take a list of 20 to 40 independent speaking questions and try to make an opening statement for each of them very quickly. This will help you feel more confident. Speak naturally. Many students lose points because they stuff their answers with overly complex words, too many idioms, or advanced vocabulary. Instead, imagine you are speaking to a friend. Would you tell him or her, "My stance regarding this issue is that adolescents should educate themselves on the process of doing household chores"? Not really. So, focus on what you say, rather than how you say it. The only thing is, avoid repeating the same word too many times in your answer. 4, don't spend too much time on your notes. You'll only have 15 seconds to prepare, so don't waste this time on writing down many things. If you want, write 1 or 2 reasons you'll give, not to forget them, but spend the remaining time thinking about what you'll say. 5, don't be too formal in your answers. I see many students who say first and foremost, second of all, in conclusion. You don't need that. Your answer should be natural sounding. 6, don't be afraid to make mistakes. You can get a perfect score even if you make several mistakes. The important thing is that they shouldn't interfere with the meaning. For example, if you say to be good in something instead of to be good at something, the listener will still be able to understand. Of course, if you have too many mistakes, it will affect your score. But don't worry too much if you make 2 to 4 minor slips. I have so many students who think only about grammar, and once they make a mistake, they are like, "Oh no, I failed. I cannot continue speaking. And they start stumbling and stuttering and don't finish their answer. Believe me, this is much worse for your overall score. Also, don't be afraid of making some pauses. Actually, it's impossible to speak without making pauses. The important thing is that these pauses have to be content-related, not vocabulary or grammar-related. So, imagine you say a sentence like this. Well, the thing I like the most is my phone. That's okay. However, if you say something like this, well, the thing I like most is my phone, that's not okay. Because the examiner will see that you either do not remember some word or you cannot use grammar freely. The next tip, don't give 3 reasons for your opinion. This way, you won't have time to expand your ideas. So, give 2 reasons. This will give you much more time to explain why you think this way. If you have problems coming up with 2 reasons, just give 1, but make sure to make a detailed example. A lot of students try giving 3 reasons, and because of that, they don't have enough time to expand on them, and will lose points for topic development. Alright, as you can see, the independent speaking question is not as intimidating as it first seems. My final advice for those who want to improve is first, stop being afraid. This is the game changer. If you are all tense and stressed out, you'll likely end up failing this question. Relax and remember that even if you say something on a completely different topic but speak well, you'll still get points for delivery, language use, and even part of the topic development. 2. Practice speaking consistently for 45 seconds or more, and don't allow yourself to stop in the middle. When we practice together, most of my students go like this. To me, it's a no-brainer that it's better to study online. No, I can't do it. I don't know what to say. If you don't know what to say something. For example, honestly, I have no idea whether it's better to study online or in a traditional classroom setting. I've never even thought about it, as this is completely irrelevant for me. Thinking about it now, my guess would be that probably it's way better to study online. And so on. Continue speaking until the 45 seconds are off. This will teach you how to keep talking, no matter what, which is gonna help a lot when you take the test. In this video, I'm going to show you how to answer the second question of the TOEFL speaking section and get the high score you want. We'll answer the question together, discuss its format and scoring criteria, and discover all the tips and tricks you need to know to score 30 out of 30 on the day of the test. Let's get started. Step number 1. Let's answer the question and discover its structure. We'll use the original question from the EDS free practice test. I'll attach the link to it in the description below, just in case you want to practice on your own later. This question is called Campus Announcement, as it tests how well you can communicate on campus. Now, listen carefully to the instructions.
Read the article from a university newspaper. You will have 50 seconds to read the article. Begin reading now.
Let's pause for a second. As you can see, the first part of the task is to read a text about a campus-related topic. While you read, you should write down 2 things. 1. The main idea of the passage. Ask yourself, what is this text mainly about? You'll usually find this information in the heading and in the first couple of sentences. In this text, the university will prohibit bicycles on campus. So, simply write down, ban bicycles on campus. An important thing to remember, you cannot just take the piece of the text and say it exactly the same way. In your response, you should paraphrase. You can do that immediately when you take notes, or later when you have time to prepare. 2. Watch out for the 2 sub-ideas. It could be reasons for a change or a new policy, or some extra information. How to spot them? Look for transitions. Do you see the word furthermore? That's the one. You'll usually see transitions like in addition, besides, moreover, the second reason is that, and so on, to indicate the beginning of the second sub-idea. This means that the first sub-idea is given before this transition. Here is an example of my notes for the passage. Ban bicycles on campus. 1. Prevent collisions. 2. S can use free buses. S stands for students. Now let's listen to a conversation about that topic. Remember, you only hear it once, so don't forget to take notes.
Now listen to a conversation between two students.
Hey, Sue, did you see this article?
Yeah, I did. I don't think that's a very good idea.
Really? You don't think it's a safety hazard, like they said?
No, at least not during the day. I'm pretty sure both of those accidents happened at night, when it's harder to see cyclists. They didn't say that in the article.
Oh, that does make a difference.
Sure it does. Maybe at night, with low visibility, there's a safety hazard. But I don't think there's any danger in the daytime, which is when most people need to move around and get to classes.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Besides, it's such a big campus. If they do this, it's going to be really hard to get around.
Well, we can always take the bus, I guess.
But the buses only run once an hour.
That's true. They're not very convenient.
No, not at all. If people have to take the bus, we'll end up sitting around waiting for the next one all the time, and we're all too busy to waste our time doing that.
As you see, the conversation is between two students, and one of them gives 2 reasons for their opinion. In some tasks, the student agrees with the announcement. In some, the student disagrees. My notes for this question look like this. Disagrees. 1. Accidents happened at night. Difficult to see. Low visibility. Day. No danger. Most S commute during the day. 2. Big campus. Hard to get around. Buses run once an hour. S. Will waste time waiting. Too busy. S stands for students. You can write a bit more or a bit less, depending on your speed of writing. The important thing is that you don't get distracted from listening. Now, you'll have 30 seconds to prepare your response and 60 seconds to speak. After the signal, you can pause the video and try answering on your own. Then continue the video and listen to my response. According to the announcement, the university is going to ban the use of bicycles on campus, as it'll help prevent collisions between pedestrians and cyclists, and because students will be able to use free campus buses instead. The speaker disagrees with this idea and provides 2 reasons in support. First, she says that the accidents described in the article occurred at night, when the visibility is poor and it's difficult to see cyclists. However, most students commute during the day, when this problem doesn't exist, and as a result, there is no safety threat. Second, she mentions that the campus is a large area, so if students aren't allowed to use bicycles, getting around will be problematic. On top of that, the buses only go once an hour, so even if the bus service is introduced, it won't be as effective as riding a bike, because students will waste a lot of time waiting for the next bus, and they're too busy for that. These are the reasons why the woman is against the announcement. That's it. You just need to summarize the information from both the reading and the listening. You don't need to give your opinion. Step number 2. How your response is scored. Just as with the first question of the TOEFL speaking section, you can get a raw score for this one on a scale from 0 to 4, with 4 being the highest score. Your answer will be assessed by a human rater and by an automated computer software called the speech rater. The human rater will score your delivery, language use, and topic development. The speech rater has its own criteria. However, in general, to get a high score, you should 1. Speak at a natural pace. You don't have to rush, but don't slow down too much either, because the speech rater will notice. 2. Speak clearly, to make sure everyone understands what you are saying. 3. Avoid pausing too much. This is mostly for the speech rater. 4. Avoid too many grammar and vocabulary mistakes, especially those that make your speech difficult to understand. 5. Use complex and compound sentences. It doesn't mean that your speech should be overly complicated. Just avoid using only simple sentences. 6. Quickly summarize the reading. 7. Provide many details from the listening. 8. Connect your ideas well by using transitions like besides, as a result, however, this is why, and so on. With that in mind, let's move on to step 3. Tips and tricks. 1. Don't spend more than 15 seconds on the reading summary. As you can see, I summarized the reading passage in 1 sentence. You can also summarize the reading in 2 sentences, but no more than that. Many students start giving lots of details about the reading and, as a result, run out of time when they start talking about the conversation. 2. If your level is not very good, start each answer the same way. You can say, the reading passage announces a change on campus, or the reading passage announces a new policy. Starting the same way each time gives you a sense of control and allows you to stay calm while answering. In our TOEFL course, we provide you with templates for the speaking section that'll help you get a high score. 3. Take notes. I recommend writing down the main ideas and the 2 sub-ideas, just like I did. This will help you avoid pausing, especially in the first half of your answer, which will increase your score from the speech rater. 4. Provide lots of details from the conversation. The conversation is more important than the reading, as you don't see the text in front of you. So, the more details you provide, the higher your score will be. If you're a slow speaker, you can just include the main idea of the reading and focus on the listening summary. 5. Use transitions. This question tests your ability to understand information and then present it in a clear and effective way. This is why using transitions such as besides, as a result, however, this is why, on top of that, from time to time will allow you to score higher. 6. Don't give a conclusion unless you run out of time. If you're a fast speaker like me, you can include a conclusion at the end of your answer instead of staying silent. However, if you don't have time for a conclusion, don't worry. It's not necessary at all. In fact, you can easily get a 4 out of 4 if you include all the relevant information. Speak fluently and without mistakes. No conclusion is necessary. 7. Study synonyms and campus vocabulary. As you can see, you should be able to paraphrase fast and speak fluently on campus-related topics. So, if you have little experience with campus-related vocabulary, I suggest checking it out. You can find lots of campus vocabulary on vocabulary.com. Ultimate top 10 tips that will help you get a high score on the TOEFL writing section. Tip number 1. Know your question types and scoring rubrics. The TOEFL writing section has 2 tasks, the integrated task and the academic discussion task. The integrated task involves reading an article, listening to a lecture on the same topic, and then summarizing the information you learn from both sources. The academic discussion task is all about your thoughts. You must answer a question posed by a professor and write at least 100 words in 10 minutes, expressing your opinion on the topic. In the integrated assignment, you should select the most important information from the lecture and present it coherently and accurately in relation to the relevant information from the reading. This means that you should first write a little more about what you heard than what you read. Second, organize your response well and make it easy to understand. And third, make sure that your language mistakes don't distract the reader. In the writing for an academic discussion task, you should make a relevant and very clearly expressed contribution to the online discussion that demonstrates consistent facility with language. This means that first, your response should be at least 150 words long, preferably 170, to ensure that you develop your ideas well. Second, you must use details and examples. Third, your grammar and vocabulary should be natural and varied. And then fourth, you should proofread your essay well to avoid grammar and vocabulary mistakes. If you want to learn advanced vocabulary for the TOEFL writing section, get our PDF by clicking on the link in the video description. This brings us to the second tip. Tip number 2, learn to spot your mistakes. This is especially important for the academic discussion task. The scoring rubrics tell us that you should make almost no lexical or grammatical errors other than those expected of a competent writer, writing under time pressure. As examples, they give common typos or common misspellings or substitutions, such as there and there. So, to avoid mistakes, unleash your inner grammar ninja and proofread carefully. I recommend that you proofread your essays 3 times. The first time, check for content and clarity. Make sure you answered the question, provided enough detail, and didn't go off topic. The second time, check for grammar. Look for those sneaky grammar errors, such as articles, tenses, punctuation, and prepositions. Finally, reread your essay to see if you need to make any vocabulary corrections. Of course, time is limited on test day, so you should learn to do this very quickly. To improve this skill, use proofreading tests and quizzes. There are tons of them on the internet. You can use the ones offered by Edit Republic, the Chartered Institute of Editing and Proofreading, or Grammar Monster. I will include the link to many free proofreading tests in the description below. This is a definite game changer. Like I said, time management is key. So, tip number 3 is stick to the clock. You may be able to write 30 out of 30 essays if you're preparing at home without a time limit. But if you only have 10 or 20 minutes to write something, everything changes. So, pace yourself and plan your time carefully. Spend a few minutes thinking about what you're going to write. Then write non-stop for some time. And spend the rest of the time proofreading what you've written. Proofreading is always easier than writing from scratch. So start writing as soon as you outline your essay and make corrections as necessary. Tip number 4, improve your typing skills. You can practice on the Fast Fingers website, which will also improve your spelling. This is especially important since there will be no grammar checkers on the day of the test, and you'll want to be prepared. Tip number 5, practice until your writing skills become automatic. Writing is a skill, and like any skill, it gets better with practice. Set aside some time each day to write essays. Use the official TOEFL prompts, time yourself, and review your work. The more you practice, the more confident you'll be on test day. You also want to reach a level where you don't have to think about grammar and vocabulary. If a grammar topic is challenging for you, review it until it becomes automatic. You can use grammar books or websites to practice grammar. Tip number 6, learn collocations, not individual words. Part of the writing criteria is that you demonstrate precise and idiomatic word choice. Writing effectively and naturally depends on your ability to write in chunks. Imagine that you need to use the verb to address in your essay. Are you likely to use it correctly if you only know its definition? Maybe yes, maybe no. But if you know collocations, like to address the problem or to address the issue, you'll have a better chance of using them naturally. For example, the government is implementing new policies to address the problem of pollution in urban areas. Feel free to use the Skell language learning engine, which provides sample sentences, a word chart with common collocations, and synonyms for any word or phrase you'd like to learn. Tip number 7, don't be afraid to make grammar mistakes. Yes, I know I just said that grammar is important and that you should learn to spot grammar errors in your essays. But that shouldn't be your main focus. In my one-on-one sessions, I see many students who only think about grammar accuracy and forget or don't have time to think about anything else. You should know that even though the ETS says that you should have almost no lexical or grammatical errors in your essays, the maximum score sample essays they provide us with have quite a lot of errors. When I was preparing updated lectures on the new writing test for our TOEFL course, I checked the ETS sample essays. And I have to tell you that there were more than 5 mistakes in each short essay. We analyze all of them in our writing module. For the integrated essays, grammar mistakes are even less important. This assignment is about showing that you can read, listen, and summarize academic information effectively. So yes, you should try to eliminate errors from your essays, but you should also know that it's okay to make some, especially if you're writing quickly. Don't just focus on grammar. Think about vocabulary, and most importantly, the content of your essays. Tip number 8, use templates. As with the speaking section, your writing will be much easier if you use templates. For example, the template for the integrated essay in our TOEFL course is 119 words long. If your essay is 200 words, that's about 60% of your essay. If you write 250 words, the template will be 47% of the essay, which is still about half. It also gives you the structure, so you don't have to worry about the order of the information. All you need to do to write a successful integrated essay is to follow the template and take effective notes while listening to the lecture. Tip number 9, don't write a conclusion. This is another important thing to keep in mind. Many students think that they need to have a conclusion. However, you don't need a conclusion in the integrated essay or in the writing for the academic discussion assignment. You should spend this time proofreading your essay more carefully. Finally, tip number 10, expand your vocabulary by paraphrasing. As you've seen, your vocabulary is crucial to scoring well on the TOEFL writing section. One of the ways to improve it and learn more synonyms for advanced vocabulary is to paraphrase texts. Simply take a portion of an article on the topic you are struggling with and rewrite it using synonyms and paraphrasing. My students and I jokingly call this technique an anti-plagiarism exercise. If you're writing a paper in college and use some ideas from outside sources, you must paraphrase the information from those sources to avoid losing points for plagiarism. Just do this for about 10 minutes every day and you'll see great improvements. It will also help you expand your topic-specific vocabulary. Congratulations! You did it! You now have everything you need to score high on the TOEFL. Again, if you need more help, click on the link. Good luck on your test.